Hi, I'm Bart, your friendly employment strategist. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 resume tips that you can use to overcome age discrimination. Now, in many countries, it is illegal for an employer to discriminate against a job applicant based on the applicant's age. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. I know it's not fair, but it does happen. So, tip number 1. Tip number 1 is related to the very first section of your resume, and that is your profile summary or your summary of qualifications. In most cases, I tell job applicants to start their profile summary with something like this: team-oriented mechanical engineer with more than 10 years experience in, and so on. As you can see, I encourage the applicant to include the number of years of experience that they have. In most cases, this works very well. But for older applicants, or for applicants applying to jobs that explicitly state that they should have, for example, between 2 to 5 years experience, this type of a profile summary statement will not work because it will tell the employer immediately that that person is either overqualified or too old for that particular job position. So, what should you do instead? Well, instead of including the number of years of experience, include an adjective such as significant or extensive. So let's use the example I used previously for the profile statement. If you have too many years of experience, it would be something like this: team-oriented mechanical engineer with significant experience in, or team-oriented mechanical engineer with extensive experience in. So you see, we're not mentioning the number of years of experience that you have, but we're still communicating that you have a lot of experience. Tip number 2 is related to the work experience section of your resume. And this tip is that you should include no more than 10 to 15 years of previous work experience. But how do you know whether you should use 10 or 15? Well, the answer really depends on whether or not your earlier job experience is important to the type of job for which you are applying now. For example, if you are a sales trainer and you started your career 13 years ago in corporate sales as a sales executive, well, that's important because it shows that you have hands-on experience in sales. So in that case, you should include your work experience earlier than 10 years back. But in most cases, I would suggest that you don't go back more than 10 years. And finally, tip number 3 is related to the last section of your resume, which typically is either your education section, your professional development section, or your certificates and certification section, or all 3 if you have them in your resume. And the tip is that if you earned your certificates or diplomas or degrees more than 15 to 20 years ago, don't include the date. In fact, this tip is related to tip number 2, and that is if you have education that is older than 10 years back in your history, don't include the date. However, you might want to include the month and the year of your most recent education or professional development. And the reason for that is that you're communicating to the employer that you're still committed to professional development and to developing your career skills. So that might be a good idea. However, if you want to be consistent and you're not including dates for your older certifications, you might just decide not to include them in that particular section. And if you combine all three of these tips, you increase the chance that you will not be discriminated against based on age and that you will be asked for an interview. However, during the interview, they will see what you look like, they will be able to ask you questions, so there is nothing you can do that will overcome age discrimination 100%. But like I said, these three tips will help you a lot. I hope these tips were useful for you, and as always, if you have any comments or questions or an idea for a topic that you would like me to talk about, please make sure to include them in the comments section below this video.